Now let's see how we can use the API folder inside our Next.js project. You can create route handlers inside your Next app directly without creating any backend element. So let's show you that. In the app folder you can create an API folder, you can see. So this API folder you can create any endpoint which you can interact with your front end, and you can fetch data inside your backend element. So inside the API folder we need to specify any with the name of route.ts. Let's show you that. I can create this, and I can create route.ts file. So this route.ts file we can use to interact with as a backend. So let's create that. Let's create export async and function, and we need to specify the endpoint which we can interact or we can fetch to. So in my case it is a get, but you can also use a post, a patch, all works fine. So now in this case we can use a get function, and let's specify this, and let's return next response dot json hello there, and save it. You can see now when we use this route handler, like in the pages folder, when we navigate to localhost API and localhost 3000 and API, it will give us this endpoint. Let's show you that. I can open my Postman, and let's check that. In this case we don't need WebSocket, we need HTTP, and we need get. We have already specified a get endpoint, and let's specify this localhost 3000 API and 1, and let's send this. Yeah, it is giving me an error. Let's give HTTP, and let's check this. There is some error. Let's check that. Yeah, I fixed that. It is not API 1, it is API. So let's send this. You can see it will give us hi there. So we can interact as a backend for this. And now let's create another endpoints. Now we can access this route using localhost 3000 and API 1. Let's create another route. Let's create with an ID. So we have API, and we can create another folder, and inside this folder we can specify an ID, and inside this you can create another route.ts. Let's specify another get endpoint, export async function, and get. Let's specify params. If we use ID, we need to specify the params, and we can get the ID from the params. So params, and let's give this params, and let's give this ID. I think this like this ID string, and let's specify first let's console log the params, console log params.id and return next response.json, and let's specify this, and let's render id and params.id, and let's save this. Now we have specified this when we send request to this endpoint, which is params localhost 3000 API and an ID, any ID, it will return the ID number. Let's check that. It is a GET request, and let's specify 34, and let's send this request. Let's check that. Oh, it is giving us an error. Let's see the error. Maybe I think we need to specify the request here first. I think that maybe the error. I will show you the error. I think cannot read the property of ID. Let's see the error. Yeah, you can see we need to specify first the request, and we need to specify the params. I think this is a problem, so let's specify the request first. In the first parameter we need to specify request, and let's show you that request, and it is request. And let's say the comma, and let's save this. Now I think it will work. Let's check that. Let's send this. You can see it will give us ID of 34. If I specify any number, let's say 456, it will parse all the ID, and it will give me the ID. You can see, make sure you specify the request first, and make sure you specify the params. So you can use like this. You can see it from the documentation. You must specify the request. If you don't specify the request, it will give us an error. So this is how you use route handler. You can see it is simpler, and you can see you can use it as a backend, as a lightweight backend to your application, and you can fetch any data from it. You can use it for the webhook on different purposes. So this is how you use API in Next.js. Now let's move on to the next section.